afternoon. Yes, my name is Sonny Irabo. We are on live in the studio and also on the Zoom, and we have some experts that are going to talk to us from different perspectives about the healing process of the human mind. Well, this is all my paraphrasing this time. We have Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede, well, a well-known broadcaster, but is a trainer of human beings, I must tell you that. Trainer of professionals, trainer of broadcasters, trainer of the people that manage to, they must manage their emotions. You see, unless you are really involved in the process of training, you will never understand the importance of managing your emotions. We have some emotional experts in the studios with me as well, and in the Zoom, we have Mrs. Queenette Enilama and Dr. Abiola Salami. And then from the spiritual angle, we also have Dr. Ambrose Opara. Dr. Ambrose Opara is based in UK. Abiola Salami, I don't know where he's calling from this time. I think he's based in Nigeria, his life. And I also know that Madam Queenette is based in Nigeria. Madam Bimbo Oloyede is based in Nigeria. Mr. Sonny Irabo is based in Nigeria. So it's only Dr. Opara that is based in the UK. We are all black people, don't worry. So, as it is, I must let you know that when we chose this point, last week we had discussed with people like Nkemdili Itulu Diegu, Dr. Boniface Chizia, Mr. Boyega Adelaja, and then we thought deeply that there was no end to this kind of conversation, because when you talk about emotional intelligence, it's just one aspect of it. But when you talk about the actual process of feeling involved with letting your emotions go and so on and so forth, do you really forgive? Can you forgive and forget? Such questions arose. Then the whole idea of determining whether you are in charge of your emotions came about. So we now decided that we have two emotional intelligence experts, one trainer of human mind and people, one spiritual person, and so on and so forth. So me, I'm just here to clap for winners. I will be asking the questions. So this is Bimbo Oloyede. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good. Right. Dr. Abiola Salami, how are you? Can you hear me?
Very well, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Don't sir me here, please. And Dr. Ambrose Opara, sir, how are you?
Yes, I can hear you. Good afternoon.
Very good. We are all can hear one another. Good. Not me. Right. Yes. Who would like to throw this salvo? Let me start with Queenette, who is with me in the studio. Emotional intelligence. Let's hear you say something about that.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Uncle Sonny. It's good to see you.
Okay, emotional intelligence, just like it says, it's you being very intelligent about your emotions. I often say that emotions are data. They give us information. It's like an energy that is in motion, right? It's just the way you have a message on your phone and you read it and you get information. That's the same thing with our emotions. They are like data. They come with information for us. Now it depends on what we do with the information that we get, how we able to navigate these emotions that we have. So for example, if you are hungry, you know that you're going to eat. If you are angry, what do you do with that emotion? If you are sad, what do you do with that emotion? Now there's a message encoded in that emotion that is coming. If you're not intelligent enough to know what to do, that's when we go, for lack of a better word, we go south. People don't know what to do, and then you now say, I didn't know what happened to me. It's as if at the time I hit the person, my eyes now became clear. No. Before you got angry, there was an information you received. You had the ability to tell yourself to calm down, but you were not intelligent about your emotion and you acted. So what you did was, instead of you responding intelligently, you reacted. Yes.
All right, let me give Dr. Abiola Salami another chance. And another emotional intelligence. In fact, he's an author. What's the title of your book again, or books?
It's The Magic of Emotional Intelligence.
Okay, magic. Now, yes, take off from where Queenette stopped.
Okay, so the question I heard from you is what's emotional intelligence, picking it up from where our super starter today started from.
I like that.
About emotional intelligence.
Yes.
So it's just the capacity of every one of us to understand our emotions, to understand the traffic lights, to understand what I colloquially call mumu button, to understand our triggers, what somebody would say or somebody will do that would trigger certain feelings in us. And of course, once the feeling is triggered, without intention, there is an action that follows it.
Without intention, there's an action that follows it. That's interesting.
There's an action that follows it. So that we can master how we react and then develop that capacity to choose our response, so that when even anyone presses this so-called mumu button, our action will still be to help us achieve our goal, whatever goal that we've set. So when we have emotional intelligence, no matter how we feel about what the external factor is, we can choose. And that's the biggest thing about emotional intelligence, our capacity to choose what we say and what we do, so that we're not distracted from the goal that we want to achieve.
Okay. All right. I have two people left, two very distinguished persons left. Let me go to Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede. You are, Jesus will probably refer to you as a fisher of men for both gender now. Don't worry. So, as a trainer, what is your interpretation and indeed your perception of what emotional intelligence and indeed emotional reaction to whatever is done to anybody is to you? Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I think in my experience, probably I can talk about that ability to choose. Because when I train people in elocution, in speech, especially in public speaking,
yes,
what I've observed is that they don't seem to have that ability to choose. Now, I cannot say whether that is as a result of not having emotional intelligence, but what I do know is that sometimes we actually have to look for ways and means to make people actually aware of themselves, to the point where they believe that they have something to say and they have a right to say it, and that people should listen to what they have to say. Many a time, people are afraid of speaking, not because they can't speak, but because, there are a variety of reasons, but occasionally it's because maybe they don't feel they speak well enough, maybe they don't feel that they are fluent enough, maybe they don't feel that that they are worthy of being listened to. And so obviously many of them have not had the right conversation with themselves. So that is where I would equate emotional intelligence and the training of human capital. People, especially when it comes to public speaking, people have to realize that that they are worthy of being heard. Let me leave it at that for the moment.
Okay. Dr. Ambrose Opara, I deliberately left you with the spiritual angle, because this whole matter, whether we like it or not, there's no way you can do this without an intervention from God.
Yeah, exactly. Emotional intelligence is all about understanding your emotions by the help of the Spirit of God, as well as knowing how the other person feels. You see, if you understand yourself, you will definitely know how the other person feels. It does not come by your strength. It comes by knowing who God is and how God operates. And you use that in dealing with your fellow human beings. I think I'll stop for now.
Okay, I like that. Use that in dealing with your fellow human beings. Oh, that's a good one. Now, the emotional intelligence people, because we're coming back to the two, the trainers, the spiritual and the trainer of the human capital. Okay, Mrs. Enilama, yes.
Miss.
Oh, okay, sorry. When I grow up, I'll marry you. Okay, let's say, yes. Miss Enilama. Right. When you look at the whole talk about emotional intelligence, human intelligence, then let's look now specifically at forgiveness. You offend me, and then I want to say to myself, okay, Dr. Opara said, forgive and forget. Can you forget?
Can you forget?
That alone is very pregnant.
Oh well, I mean, talking from experience, or from the body of work we've done, I would say that it depends.
On what?
It depends. So now forgiveness, let's look at forgiveness. What's forgiveness? I would say that forgiveness is you being intentional about making the decision to let go of the hurt, the anger, the offense, whatever it is. It's an intentional decision for you because it affects you more than the person you're actually rendering the forgiveness to. You are the one who gets hurt. So we hear it all the time, but I like what Mrs. Oloyede said. Sometimes there was something she said that made me think of this. Sometimes we really don't sit with ourselves to understand who we are, to understand our patterns and the things that we do. So when you are angry with someone, you're giving off, you're angry, it is you who is getting all of the hurt. The person might just be on their own, but you're getting angry, you're sweating, your anxiety will come in. It is you that is hurting, but your intention, your decision to let go, that's what forgiveness really is. And sometimes it's actually not easy. Like Doctor said, it takes the grace of God for you to let go. And that's where we talk about having boundaries in relationships.
Dr. Abiola Salami, can you forget?
Yes, sir.
Can you forget?
Well, our memory, we're not created to just throw away information like that. There are deposits. I mean, in our minds, neuroscientists, they've told us, that we have the conscious part of our mind and then the unconscious part of our minds, and that if we are asking anyone, of course, on the call that, what are you thinking of? We can say what we're thinking of right now, that's just 10% of our total thoughts, that the other 90%, is not in the front burner. So we can have some information right there, and a situation will happen that will trigger our memory, and bring it back. So the real conversation is not in forgetting, because I think that's just an English expression, saying forgive and forget. It's an English expression, not a practical psychological expression. So we cannot necessarily forget, also depending on the severity of the issue. The only thing is what we can do, again, back to choice. What we can do is a decision that would make that even when I remember this, I have packed this issue into some drum, into some space somewhere, such that the experience, the feeling that I have whenever I remember the issue, that I reduce the intensity of that feeling so it doesn't affect me any longer. I mean, if there's anybody on this call, who suffered heartbreak years ago. If it's maybe 10 years ago, or for some, based on the faces we are seeing on the call, maybe 30 or 40 years ago. And there's a
why are both of the two emotional intelligence people are laughing? Why are they laughing? Queenette, why are you laughing?
I'm just laughing.
Okay, go on, please. What you see the picture of the individual or the name of the individual, or you hear the voice of the individual, that's 30 years ago. You've probably not seen the person or heard anything about him or her in the past 30 years. It brings back the memory. The only thing is, our hope is that now, 30 years plus later, we have resolved the issue,
okay,
such that the intensity of the pain we went through it doesn't becloud our judgment today and doesn't stand in the way of our progress today.
Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede, somebody is about to read news at 10 o'clock on radio. Thank God it's not TV. It would have been disastrous. And then they slapped the person 2 minutes to airtime. He really hot slap that brought tears to one of the eyes. And then an elderly person now said, come on, embraced him, said, go and read the news. Don't let it affect you. What do you advise at that stage? Can the person forgive, read that news, and still forget later on and blah, blah, blah? Let me know. Yes. As a trainer, Mrs. Oloyede.
Yes, in that kind of situation, you have no choice than to forgive immediately.
Immediately.
Because you are going on to do immediately. You are going on to do a professional job, which is going to be listened to by millions of people, and you have a particular name, you have a particular standard that you're supposed to uphold. And if you hold any grudges, it's going to disturb the flow of the information that you want to put across. That information at that point in time is sacred, sacrosanct. Nothing should touch it. So it is either you make up your mind, forgive immediately, and go ahead and deliver a professional bulletin, or you say immediately, I'm sorry, I can't do this. Because you know that you are not going to be capable of delivering that bulletin in a way that is professional, that is neutral, that is of a particular standard. So it's a choice that you make.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going to do this. Therefore, I forgive this person. Let me go ahead and do this job. Afterwards, I will think about it.
I will think about it. Well, Dr. Opara, will you forgive afterwards and forget?
Yes, I'll take inference from the scripture, if you permit.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Jesus was crucified, and while on the cross, we know he felt hot. He was in pain. At that moment, God's wrath was on the people. But Jesus said one thing, Lord, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. Anytime one offends you, it is not that person, but the spirit in that man that is trying to upset you. So forgiveness does not mean completely letting go. It is just for you not to react, with instant judgment. You just have to control your emotions, do what you have to do, and at the end of the day, you might find peace with that person, but your action that moment is what determines how you control your emotion.
Okay. Well, sorry, there was a bang in the studio. We reacted. We are forgiving the person. Don't worry. But then, back to you, Dr. Ambrose Opara. Now, the whole idea of being prayerful and then allowing it to reflect in the way and manner you deal with people, how do you see that? One who is very prayerful, because I've seen a lot of pastors, for that matter, pastors too, who just become human all of a sudden. They're not as forgiving as they want to reflect.
Yeah, we are all humans in the first place. And we have our emotions that control us. But if you are led by the Spirit of God, you don't have power over yourself, but you allow the Spirit of God to rule your life. You know, Jesus said one thing. He said, if I leave, I will send you a comforter, one who will teach you all things. He will lead you into all truths. And our actions as people who preach the gospel is to allow the Spirit of God lead us in everything that we do. It's not that we cannot react. If you slap me, I slap you. God no go vex. You know?
I like that.
However,
that one I've been there. Worry, and adage. Go ahead.
Exactly. So, however, but that shouldn't be the case. When somebody hurts you, you remember what God said. You see, the Spirit of God must always control you by His word. You remember what the word of God says, then it should be your anchor. It should be what should lead you in your reaction. So you don't allow things that you see humans do to you affect the way you treat them. You know, it says, love your neighbor as yourself. What would you want to do to yourself? If that thing which you want to do to yourself is good for the other man, then go ahead and do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All of you, I'm going to ask all of you, Bimbo Oloyede, Ambrose Opara, Queenette Enilama, and Abiola Salami. And there's Uche. Uche, how are you? Can you identify yourself, please? Uche, can you say something? I can see Uche's iPhone. Okay.
Yeah, I'm listening. Good afternoon.
You are listening. Okay, I like that. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Yes.
Okay. So what I was going to say is we're now looking at everything in totality. If we see the whole idea of being, you know, they talk about healing, they talk about emotional intelligence, they talk about forgiveness. There are other elements of emotions that shows that we are really not just human beings, but we are capable of falling foul of what is expected of us. So the question to all of you now is, has any one of you ever been offended in such a way that you felt so deeply hurt you didn't immediately know how to respond? Who would like to take first? Let me know. I don't want to throw it at anybody. I want to test anybody now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bimbo, you first. Bimbo.
Deeply hurt.
Yes.
That I didn't know how to respond.
Yes.
Yes, but it was not as a result of being offended. It was as a result of grief.
Oh, okay.
I have been in some situations that shocked me to the marrow, that made me completely numb. So it was not even a question of, I don't know how to respond. There was nothing in me. There are 2 specific occasions I can think of. There was nothing left in me at the time to respond, whether goodly or badly. It was as if I was just suspended.
How did you heal?
And this was I felt numb. I didn't actually have any feelings. I was drained. I had been through 2 situations where, one, my husband was ill. The second, my daughter was ill. And I had looked after both of them as best as I could. One was a longer period of time than the other, but both of them did not end pleasurably. Let me put it that way. And so when the inevitable happened, I was drained of energy, drained of emotion, drained of anything that you can think of. So I was just going through the motions of living every day. So in that instance, it was not, I was not offended. I didn't even feel offended. I didn't even feel that God had offended me, because I had prayed for miraculous healing and it didn't happen. But as at those particular times, I was I was floating. I was numb.
Wow. Okay.
So there was no response. I was just going through the motions, as I said.
Dr. Opara, back to you on that. Can you take it from where Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede just concluded?
Yes. You see, sometimes when things happen, you really do not know what to do. You are numb. Not because you cannot pour out your heart wailing, but you see, you just have to look up to God and say, God, let your will be done. I have gone through different situations that sometimes I look like a stone. Not because I cannot react. But when you look at it, when you react, what happens? Is it for me to retaliate? Or if it's a situation where I don't have to retaliate, it's something that applies to me directly, what do I do? Do I kill myself? So all these come into play. So the way you handle them is how life leads you.
Okay, Dr. Abiola Salami. Emotional intelligence, relating or regarding these two comments made by our immediate past guests.
Yes. When you asked the question, a thought about forgiveness came to mind. But when Ms. Oloyede started speaking, a different thought came to mind, as well. And grief is a reality. I had my experience of grief. That was with my father. It was my first year in university. I'm a firstborn. I had to mention the firstborn bit so that we will understand a new thing that happened to me after he died, because a few minutes after he passed, my mom started looking at me as though I was the one that proposed to her. And my siblings as well started looking at me as though I gave birth to them. But that's how I inherited 4 children I did not give birth to, and 1 wife I didn't propose to. It's a reality. While I needed to deal with that on one side, I needed to be dealing with the fact that I who also needed the guidance and the support of a father. I remember I said this is my first year in uni, was there to deal with myself as well. But I couldn't scream or shout on anyone that is expecting leadership of me, because now there's no one else to look up to, where I had no one else as well, to look up to. And it was quite interesting because as at that time, I was part of a project. It was a stage drama that we were to deliver. And the night he died, I had gone for the dress rehearsal. They came to call me from the dress rehearsal that he was gasping for breath. We took him to the clinic. Long and short of the story, he died that night. I couldn't go back for the dress rehearsal, but I showed up the following day to play my role on stage. I showed up, yes, the following day, 2 days back to back, a full day drama. And many years later, there's someone that reached out to me that was part of the story, who had told me that these days when he sees me training people on emotional intelligence, when I released the book on the magic of emotional intelligence, that he thinks that what emotional intelligence is really to the people that we are training, we are serving, the C-level executives, we are serving with leadership and leadership for emotional intelligence. He said he thinks they don't have as much knowledge about emotional intelligence as him. Then I asked, what are you talking about? He said it's because then when the situation happened, this was 2001, we didn't have the phrase to express it that this is emotional intelligence skill being tested, right? So he said that many years later on that realized that what had happened that day, because the entire team got together and said, if this had happened to anyone else on the team, that we would have canceled the project that we spent 6 months to work on. And it was real for me because I just lost my father, my best friend, my ticket to the future. I mean, not in Nigeria, that if you don't have a connection, you may not get jollof rice in the party, if you know what I mean by that. So I've lost that. It was a reality, but there was also the need to choose my response so that I can deliver the goal set while I am still grieving and supporting, receiving guests in the house coming to commiserate with us while I'm still serving everyone else. So it is real and it's important. It comes with life. These are things that comes with life, and it's important that we're still able to function, even afterwards. But there was something else about forgiveness that came to mind. I'll pause here.
Yeah, okay.
So that
I'll get back to you on that. Let me get to Queenette now. You are the last person left in this mode of questioning. Can you relate to all of these that have been said, and what's your reaction or response?
Well, I've had several experiences. Now, having to be in a situation where you're deeply hurt by someone, and sometimes you actually become numb because of the expectations
Yours
you have.
Is deeply hurt. And the Bimbo's own was different and emotional, but she also became numb.
Yes. Okay. So you're in shock. You don't really know how to react at that point. However, just like Mr. Abiola said, you have to do something, you have to move on. So if you have things to do, that situation that happened has the ability to impact on what you have to do, but you have to make a decision. Now you have to choose yourself. What do I do? How do I react to this situation? I'm deeply hurt. Does this situation have the ability to contaminate my day? I'm not able to function, or do I choose myself and say, you know what, in spite of all of these things that have happened to me, I'm going to move on, I'm going to deal with it. But the one thing I realized that back then when that situation happened to me was the fact that I did not deal with it properly, and it actually colored my perspective about the situation. So when I had to deal with the person again, my perspective about the person was based on the past, which wasn't good. Now this is where emotional intelligence comes in. It wasn't good. So I had to sit down with myself to say, what did this person do? How did you make me feel? Now I have to have the conversation with the person. Sometimes they might not respond to you the way you want them to respond, but you have to have it, because sometimes I think you communicate your intentions and then initiate what you want people to do.
Okay, now, Dr. Opara, this is to you specifically regarding aggression, the aggressor, and the, should I say aggressee? Is that correct? Okay. Somebody who is offended and the person that is giving the offense. So, we've heard from different perspectives, and these are very interesting experiences and encounters. I say something that may not be very nice to the other person, and the way that person reacts to my utterance will be determined in a different way, but I may not realize it. So what's your advice for, one, the aggressor, two, the person receiving the insult, as it were, if it's an insult?
Yes. Of a truth, emotion actually beclouds our reason. And it's either it makes you a tyranny or a tyrant, or it makes you a very soft person. Now, the aggressor may not know what he's doing. I used Jesus Christ as an example. These men crucified him. They did all manner of things to him, and he said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. Most times the aggressor comes because he has a thought. He feels you have done something, and he just comes at you like that. When he comes back to his senses and he realizes what he has done, he becomes a very quiet person. He may not know how to approach you to say, I'm sorry, but he goes on without guilt. And you, as the one that is on the other end, at that moment you feel so tensed that you want to jump at that man. However, you look at yourself and you say, well, let me not react. Or just like the other man, you react, and once you do that, it spoils the whole thing. So your judgment at that moment can douse the whole situation as one at the receiving end. When you keep quiet and do nothing about it, you'll find that the other man will feel so guilty that if he comes back to his senses, he will come to you and say, I'm sorry. But
Okay.
if not, you don't know how to handle that situation, then the whole thing will just collapse.
Okay, the doctor that could not make it today is Dr. Patrick Ijewere. He was with us last week. I'm looking at the medical side of this whole thing. When does it become injurious to the aggressee, the one who is harboring the pain, the disappointment, the annoyance, and the need or desire, the unwillingness rather, to forgive and forget? Well, Mrs. Oloyede, I'm coming to you again because I know you've seen and you've trained a lot of people in different perspectives, different areas. What's your reaction to somebody who may harbor so much? Because the Dr. Jewere once told me that it can actually lead to a lot of medical conditions. Do you agree, Mrs. Oloyede?
Yes, I do.
You do?
I do agree.
Okay. Now,
yes,
yeah,
not just physiological conditions, but also psychological conditions.
Yes.
And both conditions, I think, have an impact on each other. For instance, I have been in a situation where I was trying to train somebody to speak, speaking, and discovered that she was very, very restless. And she actually confessed that, she finds it difficult to focus. Okay. So what is the burden that you are going through that makes it difficult for you to focus, that distracts you to the point where, you can start off and give me a good opening, but by the time you're getting to your first point, you're already derailing, even though you have written down what it is you want to say, but you're looking at the paper or you're looking at your device and all you're seeing is just a blur. Well, I actually referred her to somebody who I thought would be in a better position to help her than myself, because my own is in helping you to address the public. It is not in helping you to resolve whatever it is that is stopping you from talking. And so she had to go through therapy. But when she was, after a while, and she was able to understand what it was that was making her restless and unable to focus, she came back a different person. So I do believe that it is true that you can feel so bad that it affects you physiologically. And in fact, I have read of studies done, for instance, where women who, some women, not all, some women who have been diagnosed with breast cancer is related directly to being unhappy, to having to living in unhappy marriages, to stress. This has been proven. So it's not a secret. It's out there, and vice versa. So it is really very important for people to be able to separate things, in their lives, separate circumstances, and I think maybe go into a neutral mode, because if we keep on applying sentiment to everything, we are really going to be in a terrible situation. Sentiment doesn't help. Yeah, it doesn't help. It doesn't mean that, you shouldn't have feelings, etc., etc. But you can't look at everything from a sentimental angle. You won't get up. You won't get up in the mornings.
I like this. Madam Queenette, what's your reaction to this physiological, I love that word, the connection and implication of this development?
It's just like she said. There's so many things written about this. I'll use myself as an example. So if I am angry, if I am very, very angry, I start to feel a headache.
Huh.
Yes, and that's because I have taken my time to observe certain things.
That means she must be deeply emotional.
We're all emotional
or should
beings.
I say sensitive?
No. So it probably, maybe it would have been from a situation where I probably did not address the situation, and then I probably had suppressed anger, and then something triggered it, and then I see that I'm in a state, and then I begin to notice that I have a headache, and then when I address the situation, the headache disappears. So
how do you address the situation?
So I talk about it. Because
talk to who about it?
Whoever has gotten me upset. First of all, I talk to myself. Why are you upset? Why are you angry? What triggered this? Why did you react this way? Okay, what would you have done better? Okay, now would you have a conversation with this person? And then when you might not even come to, the person might not apologize, but you have to address the situation. When the person apologizes, okay, it's fine. If the person doesn't apologize, but it does something for you because you have chosen yourself. Now, emotions that you do not address, that are internal, are more deadly. So I'm going to be hurting myself. Now, I say that I study human beings for a living. I say it all the time, and I use myself as an example. So whatever I'm feeling at the time, I have to sit with myself to say, why are you feeling this way? Because sometimes, our soul is the seat of our emotions. That's where we function from as people.
Dr. Opara, do you agree with that? Our soul is the what? Say that again, please.
It's the seat of your emotions.
The seat of your emotions.
Yes.
Yeah.
You agree, okay?
And that's where we function from as humans. So the words that every day, if you keep quiet now, Uncle Sonny, and just say to yourself, I'm young and handsome. You don't have to say it with your mouth. Don't say it. Just say it in your head. Don't open your mouth. Just say it. Who said it? You did. Mm-hmm. But you didn't have to voice it out. Do you understand? So every time we have words, things are coming up. We're saying things to ourselves. If we're just able to organize our thoughts properly and navigate these things, our emotions properly, we would actually live a better life and we'll stop hurting ourselves. Sometimes when you're suppressed anger can lead to ulcer. I know someone who has that as well, because you are angry. There are chemicals that I'm not a doctor, but I've read there are chemicals that are being released in your body and they are eating you up. And so the Bible is complete. Don't allow anger get the best of you.
No, I'm enjoying Dr. Abiola Salami. This is next to you.
Yes,
you
sir.
See, there's something very interesting in all of these things. How do we truly, in spite of ourselves, talk to ourselves to the point we have to say, hey, whether you worry or you no worry, you go die. Abi, you worry, you die. You no worry, you die. So why worry? Abi, that's the same we've been told before. Yes, emotional intelligence. You just heard what Queenette said.
Yes,
she's laughing.
Okay, so
yes.
We're a product of nature and nurture. And especially the nurture bit, which is the information that we have been fed from school. By school, I mean as far back as primary school, to remember the agents of socialization that we were taught in primary school, till where we are today. We're consistently being nurtured. And part of why we experience difficulty in choosing, part of why our willpower, to choose our response, to be less worried, to be more forgiving, all of these issues, part of why it's more challenging for us is because of the nurturing we continue to go through, the content we continue to consume. For example, on Twitter, when there is a bass, there's a boost. They say those things, and when we continue to engage in those kind of conversations, whether you're an active participant or you're just an onlooker, getting entertained by the conversations between people, all of that is dropping some things into our mind that continues to make it difficult for us to choose in our moment of truth. So we will continuously become
I like that.
Yes, we will continuously become more worried in life. Why? Because the movies we watch, the conversations that are entertaining on social media, the conversations we have even with our friends as well, drop and fans the flames of worrying with us. We will continually become more fearful, more afraid. Why? Because the conversations we open our minds to, earlier, our super starter said that our emotions sits in our soul, which is true. And that's where our mind, our emotions, the more we consume those content, whether consciously or unconsciously, the more it weakens our willpower to choose so we can achieve our goals. So my recommendation to us, it's never late to start, is for us to be more conscious of the things we allow to get into our gates.
Okay.
Our gates, our ears.
Let me stop you there.
Our eye.
Let me stop you there. You know why? Because I want to, the last 3 minutes of this program, I want all of you to go look at your advice. But let's look at, by the way, Theo Nwamadi, you're welcome from South Africa. I'm glad that you're part of it. So let me ask again, what is the power of positive thinking, judging by what Dr. Abiola Salami said about people, what we watch, what we listen to, the kind of conversations we have tend to affect us, negatively, I think, is what I deduce from that. So what's the power of positive thinking in this process? The trainer of men and resources, Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede, please, let me hear you.
I think that, yes, there is definitely a place for positive thinking, but I want to move the needle further.
Okay.
I think we have to go beyond positive thinking. I think we have to get into a place where we are consciously choosing what is called hopeful communication. Because you see, we keep on, as we have been told, we keep on, by choice, many a time, listening to negative information, watching negative information. And whether we like it or not, it is being deposited. But what if we decided that what we want to do is to turn it around and go from negative to positive? But thinking is not enough. What we say, I think, is very, very important. And hopeful communication is all about communicating in a way that moves us from fear to hope. Okay,
fear to
that
hope.
moves us from negative to positive. Yes, that moves us from thinking about opportunities. That moves us from despair, if you like, to thinking about opportunities, which in turn will help us to forget the threats. In other words, we should be looking at solutions, not the problems. If we can focus our attention on that, and we have to be very deliberate about it, because it is now, we've heard this word so often, choice. It's a conscious choice to move into that mode of hopeful communication. What we say to ourselves, what we say to other people, is going to change the whole trajectory of so many things that are happening within us and also around us.
Okay, I'm going to go to Dr. Opara now, but let me quickly acknowledge the fact that there's Omolola Oluwadara, who is in the studio, well, not in the studio, it's in the Zoom chambers. And then somebody sent a message, he didn't give in his name or her name, said, "Good evening, Sir Sonny Rabo and people in the house, the Zoom house. Please, can we teach more on this emotional intelligence? How can you deal with a full-blown narcissist?" Oh my God, that's a serious one, because they don't really reason like the normal, ordinary human being. Oh, that is a very good one. Can I ask, Dr. Opara, Can you take that up? Narcissism.
Yes, I can. Yeah. First, the scripture says, guide your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. Guarding your heart, that means your thoughts. Your thoughts actually determines who you are. And if you're not careful, what you say might be hurtful to others. So when you guard your heart, that means you have a choice of what you want to put in there, just like the computer. What you feed into it is what you bring out. So when you guard your heart properly, you have positive thoughts. Whatever comes out of you will become positive. Now, to answer that question, how do you handle them? Ignore them.
So silence is the best answer for
exactly. Just ignore them. Because I don't like using this word, they are fools. Because if they are not foolish, they will not be the way they are. You have to ask God for wisdom to handle such issues, and that is silence.
Let me come in here because we have less than 5 minutes to go. But I want to ask a question regarding the way the followership of today's leadership is being carried along. I don't want to use the word manipulated because manipulative or manipulated, because that would then mean that I'm giving my own opinion about it. But then I'm part of Nigeria. How do you people here in this discussion, what advice would you give followers who are seeing themselves? They say, take home pay is not able to take me home, so how am I going to manage the market situation? Inflation is runaway high. But those that are leaders are living a good and largest life. So people are thinking, what should we do? 30 seconds per person, please. Who would like to start?
Let me go first, sir.
Yes,
easy. Focus on what you can control, not what you can't control.
Yes.
We cannot control what the government or anybody would do. We can only control the choices we make and how we manage ourselves. That's the place of our power. So everybody listening to us, focus on what you can control.
Okay.
30 seconds. Sorry, 21 seconds gone.
Okay, all right. So, Queenette, over to
Same
you.
thing. Focus on what you can control and make necessary changes, within your environment. Focus on what you can control because external factors would always be there.
Okay. Theo Nwamadi from South Africa, I want you to say something. Are you there? Do you hear me? Can you say 30 seconds? Okay, no response from him. Bimbo, what's your response?
I would say learn to adjust.
Learn to adjust.
And learn to adjust. Even if you have to make adjustments on a daily basis, so let it be. But what is also very important is learn to ignore what other people are doing, or what you think other people are doing, or what you think other people are capable of doing. Forget the lifestyle of others. Forget about what they say. Live within your means. Adjust. If it has to be, let it be daily.
Dr. Ambrose.
Yes, I agree with the three speakers. Learn to adjust. Control what you can. And make necessary changes when the right time comes. Thank you.
Make necessary changes when the right time comes. Molola, do you have anything to say? Or you're just a silent listener? Yes.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I have learned a lot listening to you. I'm happy Aunt Landa shared this, how I got on her profile. For me personally, I would just say keep learning.
Keep learning. I like that.
Learn and relearn. Keep learning. So you would always be positioned to do better for yourself and those that depend on you. Thank you.
Thank you. Uche. Yes, Uche can say something now, right? Let's hear you. What do you say? No response from Uche. Okay, now I'm going to, before we finally round off, we have less than 2 minutes. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Theo Nwamadi, go ahead, please. Very quickly, 30 seconds.
Sorry, I was I was enjoying the words from our very brilliant speakers. Thank you to everyone. I want to add, always raise your hand and be counted. Participate and play your part.
Okay, that's a good one. Be counted. Raise your hands and be counted. Thank you very much, Theo. Thank you indeed. And this is where we end this program. Next week, I'm going to continue with it, and please, I will come back to you because we're going to have a full house. This discourse has been very, very important. God bless you all. Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede, God bless you. Dr. Ambrose Opara, God bless you. Dr. Abiola Salami, God bless you. Dr. Queenette Enilama, yes, you are a doctor.
Yes.
Human capital. God bless you.
God bless you too, sir.
Amolola, God bless you. We didn't hear your voice. Theo, thank you so much. God bless you. Uche, for a quiet listener, thank you too. God bless you. And it's been Sonny Rabo Live, and I hope all of you have enjoyed it. Those that listened at home, please send your comments. No problem. We'll be there to respond. Okay? God bless you. Bye-bye now.